I found out my wife was spending thousands of dollars on another man because my 6-year-old daughter handed me a crumpled receipt and said, "Daddy, Mommy said not to tell you about Eric anymore." I actually laughed at first, not because it was funny, because my brain refused to process what the hell I had just heard. I was standing in our kitchen holding a Spider-Man juice box while my daughter sat on the counter swinging her legs like she hadn't just detonated my entire life with one sentence. "Who's Eric?" I asked carefully. She froze. That tiny split-second panic on a child's face when they realize they messed up, I'll never forget it. Her eyes darted toward the hallway like my wife might magically appear. Then she whispered, "The beach man." My stomach dropped so hard it physically hurt. We don't know anyone named Eric, and we definitely didn't know a beach man. I asked where Mommy met him. My daughter shrugged innocently. "At the Blue Hotel." Blue Hotel. Those two words hit me harder than if she'd said Mommy has a boyfriend, because suddenly something clicked in my head. 3 months earlier, my wife started taking these weird self-care weekends, said therapy was exhausting her emotionally, said she needed space to breathe. I supported it completely because her mother had died last year and she'd been struggling mentally. I picked up extra shifts, cooked dinner, watched our daughter alone every weekend she disappeared. I even gave her spending money because she claimed she was trying to reconnect with herself. Jesus Christ. I remember staring at my daughter while my chest started tightening. "What happens at the Blue Hotel?" I asked carefully. Again, silence. Then she said something that still makes me sick when I think about it. "Mommy says I can't tell you because you'll ruin everything." That sentence did something to me psychologically. Not anger, not yet. It was worse. It was the feeling that everyone in the room knew something except me. I suddenly started replaying months of weird moments all at once. The password change on her phone, the sudden obsession going to the gym despite never caring before, the way she'd smile at texts and then instantly clear notifications, the way intimacy between us became robotic, scheduled, mechanical, like she was performing maintenance on a marriage she'd already mentally left. And the money. God, the money. I handle all our finances because my wife says numbers stress her out. 2 months ago, I noticed random withdrawals from our joint account, small enough not to trigger alarms. $60 here, $120 there, a few expensive restaurant charges she claimed were girls' nights. I believed every word, because that's what idiots in love do. They explain away things that would look obvious if it happened to someone else. I asked my daughter one more question. "Did you meet Eric?" She nodded happily. "Mommy says he's her friend, but she acts different around him." I felt cold all over. "What do you mean, different?" Then my daughter said the sentence that made me realize this situation was far worse than cheating. "He sleeps in Mommy's room when you're at work." I stopped breathing, because I worked night shifts, and suddenly every late-night FaceTime my wife missed, every time she claimed she fell asleep early, every time my daughter said Mommy was busy, became something horrifying. I didn't even realize my hands were shaking until I dropped the receipt my daughter gave me. It wasn't just a receipt, it was a jewelry store, and at the bottom, under the purchase amount, was a handwritten note. "Can't wait for next weekend. Heart, E." The purchase total? $2,843, paid from our joint account. And that wasn't even the worst part, because when I flipped the receipt over, I recognized the item she bought. It was the watch I thought had been stolen from me 6 weeks earlier.
I confronted her that same night. Not dramatically, not screaming. That's the terrifying part. I acted completely normal while my brain felt like it was bleeding internally. When she walked through the front door, she kissed our daughter first, then me. The same woman who was apparently letting another man sleep in our house while I worked overnight shifts looked me dead in the eyes and smiled like nothing was wrong. "You okay?" she asked. I realized then that manipulative people don't panic when they lie. They study you. Her eyes stayed on me half a second too long, measuring, checking for cracks. I forced a smile. Long day. She relaxed instantly. That hurt more than I expected, because it meant she'd been living like this for a while, comfortably. At dinner, she kept talking about random things while I silently watched her hands. The wedding ring, the nails I paid for, the bracelet I bought after she cried and told me she felt invisible lately. I remember thinking, how many times did you cry in front of me after leaving another man's bed? Then my daughter accidentally lit the fuse. "Mommy," she said casually while eating pasta, "are you seeing Beach Man again this weekend?" Silence. Absolute silence. My wife froze so hard her fork literally stopped mid-air. Then she looked at me, and in that exact second I saw it. Fear. Not guilt. Fear. Because she knew the secret escaped. "What Beach Man?" she asked too quickly. Our daughter shrugged. "The Blue Hotel friend." I kept my face blank, but inside, something started collapsing. My wife laughed, actually laughed. That fake little airy laugh manipulative people use when they're trying to regain control of a situation. "Oh my God," she said, looking at me. "She's talking about Eric from therapy." Therapy. Interesting, because until that moment, I had never once heard the name Eric, not one time. She immediately turned to our daughter. "Sweetheart, remember what we said about confusing Daddy with jokes?" Jokes? My daughter looked confused. "No, Mommy, you said—" "Enough," my wife snapped. Too sharp, too fast. Our daughter flinched, and that's when I knew my wife was scared, because emotionally manipulative people only lose composure when the narrative slips away from them. Then came the gaslighting. She looked directly at me and sighed dramatically. "I cannot believe this is happening," like she was the victim, like she was exhausted. "He's my grief counselor from group therapy," she explained calmly. "I told you about him months ago." No, she didn't. But the terrifying thing, for half a second I doubted myself. That's what people like her do. They say lies with such confidence that your own memory starts feeling unreliable. "You seriously think I'm cheating because our 6-year-old mixed up a conversation?" she asked. I wanted to believe her so badly it physically hurt, because the alternative destroyed everything. Then she noticed the receipt sitting beside me. Tiny mistake, tiny reaction, but I caught it. Her face changed for maybe 1 second too long. "What's that?" she asked carefully. I slid it across the table. "I found it." She picked it up, and I watched the exact moment her brain started recalculating, not panicking, strategizing. "Oh," she said softly, "I was saving this for your birthday." That watch, my stolen watch, apparently now it was magically a birthday surprise. I stared at her. "You bought my stolen watch back?" And she didn't miss a beat. "Yes." Instant answer. Too instant. "He bought it from a pawn shop after it got stolen from your gym locker," she continued smoothly. "I wanted it to be a surprise." Every sentence sounded rehearsed, polished, prepared, like she'd been practicing lying for years. Then she reached for my hand, and this part still messes me up. She started crying. Not loud crying, controlled crying, weaponized crying. "I feel like you stopped trusting me after Mom died," she whispered. "I'm drowning emotionally, and now I have to defend myself against insane accusations." There it was, the guilt reversal. Suddenly I was the bad guy. Suddenly I was unstable. And the worst part, it almost worked. Because when someone spends years training you to question your instincts, reality itself starts feeling slippery. Then she leaned closer and quietly said, "If you keep acting paranoid, you're going to destroy this family." That sentence sat in my head all night. Destroy this family. Not, "I love you." Not, "I would never do that." Just a threat wrapped in emotional manipulation. And around 2 a.m., while she slept beside me pretending everything was normal, I checked our phone bill records. That's when I discovered she'd called one number 247 times in 2 months, and the contact name attached to it wasn't Eric. It was saved as Lisa. I didn't sleep at all after that. I just lay there staring at the ceiling while my wife breathed softly beside me like she wasn't slowly poisoning my entire reality. Lisa. 247 calls, most between midnight and 4 a.m., while I was working, while I was killing myself trying to keep our family financially stable. I remember scrolling through the call logs thinking, please let this be explainable, please. But deep down, I already knew. People don't hide innocent things that aggressively. At 5:13 a.m., my wife rolled over half asleep and wrapped an arm around me. That almost broke me, because it felt so normal. That's what made it disturbing. She could lie, manipulate, cheat, steal from me, and still cuddle me like a loving wife before sunrise, like she could switch identities instantly. I waited until she took our daughter to school. Then I called the number. 1 ring, 2 rings, 3. A man answered. Hey, beautiful. My entire body went numb. I didn't speak. Neither did he. Then he laughed softly. Babe? I hung up immediately. I actually dropped my phone. My hands stopped working correctly. There's a specific kind of pain nobody talks about with betrayal. It's not just sadness. It's humiliation. You start replaying your entire relationship, wondering how long you've been the only honest person in it. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered instantly. Silence. Then breathing. Then my wife's voice. What did you do? Ice cold. Not scared. Not emotional. Dangerous. I asked her one question. Who is he? Long pause. Then she sighed like I was inconveniencing her. You went through my private records? There it was again. Deflection. No denial. Just immediate reversal. You lied to me, I said quietly. No, she snapped. You're spiraling. Spiraling. Crazy. Paranoid. Every manipulator uses the same script eventually. I asked if Eric was real. Another pause. Then, you're embarrassing yourself. That sentence hit harder than screaming would have. Because suddenly I realized something horrifying. She didn't respect me anymore. Maybe she hadn't for a long time. I asked if she loved him, and she actually laughed. Not nervous laughter this time. Cruel laughter. You don't even know what you're talking about. Then she hung up. 10 minutes later, she came home. Fast. Too fast. She stormed into the apartment already crying. Again, instantly crying, like she turned emotions on with a switch. How dare you call random numbers from my phone records? She shouted. Random numbers? I stared at her. Random? She crossed her arms. Yes, random. I said nothing. Then I quietly repeated what the man answered with. Hey, beautiful. That shut her up for exactly 3 seconds. Then she recovered. He taught you with me. That's not better. He's gay. I blinked. The speed of the lie was honestly impressive. He's gay? I repeated. Yes, she said confidently. He says that to everyone jokingly. At this point, I started realizing something psychologically terrifying. She genuinely believed she could talk her way out of anything. Reality didn't matter. Only control mattered. Then I asked why she saved a gay man as Lisa. And for the first time since this started, she slipped. Tiny slip, tiny hesitation, but I saw it. Her eyes moved left, brain searching. He borrowed his sister's phone, she said finally. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because the lies were becoming absurd, and somehow she still expected me to swallow them. Then she walked closer and lowered her voice.
"You need help." That sentence changed everything, because suddenly I understood the game. She wasn't trying to convince me she was innocent anymore. She was trying to convince me I was unstable. That's a completely different level of manipulation. "I lost my mother," she whispered, tears building again. "And instead of supporting me, my husband is stalking me and interrogating me like a criminal." There it was, weaponized grief. Again. Every conversation somehow circled back to me being cruel for questioning her. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. "If you keep acting like this, I don't know if our daughter should be around it." Around it. Like my suspicion itself was dangerous. Like I was becoming a threat. And suddenly I realized this wasn't just about cheating anymore. She was preparing something. I didn't know what yet, but I could feel it. Then her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. She saw the screen, and for the first time since I'd known her, I watched genuine panic hit her face.
She grabbed the phone too late. I already saw the notification. Bank alert. Transfer complete. 4,000 euros. My money. Our savings account. Gone. My wife turned the screen downward so fast it almost flew out of her hand, but the damage was done. I stood there staring at her while my heartbeat started thudding in my ears. "Who did you send 4,000 euros to?" She didn't answer immediately. Huge mistake. Because innocent people answer fast. Liars calculate. "It's not what you think," she said carefully. That sentence, that stupid sentence people say right before confirming exactly what you think. I asked again, this time colder. "Who got the money?" She crossed her arms defensively. "My friend needed help." "What friend?" Silence. Then, "Lisa." Of course, Lisa, the invisible woman with a male voice. I actually laughed this time, a sharp, ugly laugh that didn't even sound like me. My wife looked offended. "You're acting insane." "No," I said quietly, "I'm finally acting awake." That hit her. I saw it in her face. Manipulative people get uncomfortable the moment you stop emotionally reacting and start observing. Suddenly she switched tactics completely. No more anger. Now came softness, vulnerability. She sat down slowly and started crying again. "I didn't want to tell you this," she whispered. "Here we go. My friend is in an abusive relationship. Convenient. She needed emergency money to leave safely. Convenient. She begged me not to tell anyone. Convenient. Every lie had emotional armor attached to it. If I questioned the story, I looked heartless. That's how people like her operate. They hide manipulation behind morality. I asked one simple question. "What's her last name?" My wife froze, just for a second, but that second told me everything. Then she exploded. "I cannot believe this is what you care about." Deflection again, every single time. No answer, only outrage. Then she started pacing the kitchen dramatically. "You know what? Fine, maybe I shouldn't have hidden things from you." My chest tightened. Finally, truth? No, worse. "I hide things because you overreact." There it was, the justification stage. According to her, the lying existed because of me, not because she betrayed me, because I supposedly forced her to. That's when I noticed something else. Her phone. She kept gripping it tightly the entire conversation, like she was terrified I'd see something. Then my daughter walked into the kitchen, and the atmosphere changed instantly. My wife's entire personality softened in under a second. "Baby, can you go watch cartoons for Mommy?" Sweet voice, gentle smile, like she hadn't just psychologically twisted reality for the last 20 minutes. But my daughter didn't move. She just looked confused. Then she asked, "Are you mad because of Eric?" My wife snapped her head around so fast it startled both of us. "Stop saying that name!" Our daughter flinched hard and immediately started crying. I felt something dark move through me, because this wasn't accidental anymore. This wasn't misunderstanding. My wife was terrified our daughter talking. Terrified. Then came the moment I'll never forget. My daughter cried and said, "But Mommy said Eric needs the money because his wife found out." Silence. Complete silence. My wife looked like someone had ripped the floor out from under her. And suddenly everything changed, because this wasn't some random affair anymore. This man had a wife too. This had been going on long enough for their marriage to start collapsing too. My wife immediately rushed toward our daughter. "Sweetheart, you're confused." "No, I'm not," my daughter cried. "You were yelling in the car." The car. Jesus Christ, kids hear everything. My wife looked at me. Not sad, not guilty, cornered. And cornered people become dangerous. Then my daughter said the sentence that destroyed the last tiny piece of denial I had left. "You said Daddy is too stupid to notice." I swear to God, the room went physically cold. My wife's face lost all color. And for the first time since this nightmare started, I saw her mask completely disappear.
The woman standing in my kitchen didn't look like my wife anymore. That's the only way I can explain it. The softness disappeared. The tears disappeared. Even her posture changed. It was like watching an actress drop character mid-scene. My daughter was still crying quietly behind me when my wife slowly turned toward me and said, "Can we talk privately?" Not "I'm sorry," not denial, just damage control. I told my daughter to go to her room. She hesitated, and that destroyed me too, because my little girl looked genuinely scared to leave me alone with her mother. When the bedroom door closed, my wife's expression hardened instantly. "You need to calm down before you traumatize her," she said. I almost couldn't process the audacity. She just exposed your affair. She exposed your paranoia. There it was again, reality rewriting. I asked her directly, "How long?" Long silence. Then she sat down and rubbed her temples dramatically like she was exhausted. "It didn't start how you think." Classic. Never answer the question, just reshape it emotionally. "How long?" I repeated. Finally, she whispered, 8 months. 8 months. I physically staggered backward. 8 months of lies. 8 months of kissing me goodbye. 8 months of sleeping beside me. 8 months of using my money on another man while I worked nights to support our family. And somehow the worst part still wasn't the cheating. It was what she said next. "You were emotionally unavailable." I stared at her in disbelief. Emotionally unavailable? I worked overtime so she could heal. I cooked, cleaned, watched our daughter constantly. I drained myself trying to keep our family functioning while she disappeared every weekend, and somehow she was the victim. Then she said his name for the first time. Eric listened to me. That sentence cut deeper than I expected, because suddenly I understood what she'd been building in her head, a narrative. In her story, I was the neglectful husband, she was the lonely, broken wife, and Eric was the man who saved her emotionally. Affairs always sound romantic when selfish people tell them, until you remember they're funded with lies. I asked if she loved him. Again, silence. Then, "It's complicated." That's when something inside me cracked permanently, because faithful people don't say, "It's complicated." They say no immediately. I asked if she spent our savings on him, and she actually got irritated. Not everything is about money. I laughed again. That bitter laugh kept happening without my permission. "You bought him my watch. He appreciated me." The second she said it, she realized she messed up, but it was too late. The room went dead silent. Appreciated me. Not
I appreciated him, not I was helping him. No, she bought gifts for another man because he made her feel valued, using my money. Then came the twist I never saw coming. She looked me dead in the eyes and quietly said, "You drove me to this." I felt physically sick, not because it hurt, because she believed it. She genuinely believed her betrayal was my fault. That's the terrifying thing about manipulative people. They don't just lie to others. Eventually, they rewrite reality for themselves, too. Then she dropped another bomb. "Eric wanted me to leave you months ago." Months ago? So they'd been discussing my marriage together, analyzing me together, planning around me together. I suddenly imagined them laughing about me while I worked overnight shifts. And then my wife said something that made my blood freeze. But I told him I couldn't because of the insurance. Insurance? Not our daughter, not our marriage. Insurance? I whispered, "What?" She realized too late what she admitted. "You know what I mean." "No," I said slowly. "Explain it." Now she looked nervous again, real nervous. "The health insurance. Things are expensive." But it was too late, because now I was hearing everything differently. The secret withdrawals, the manipulation, the gaslighting, the sudden attempts to paint me as unstable, and a horrifying thought started forming in my head. I asked her one question very carefully. "Were you planning to leave me after taking enough money?" She didn't answer, and that silence was louder than any confession. Then her phone buzzed again. This time she forgot to hide the screen. One message, from Eric, and all it said was, "Did he find out about the apartment?"